And welcome back, everyone. It's the week of who would win. And from Muhammad Shabazz, we ask the question of who wins in the fight, Pinhead or Pumpkinhead. Uh, Now, real quick, nor I only ever address comments usually like this just to get a point across. I am human. I will make mistakes. My opinion is just an opinion. And look, I'm not infallible. But there was a comment that was made on one of my more recent videos. It was Ruin King Thor versus Chaos War Hercules. That I'm like, that is one of the most dumbass comments I've ever heard. You can find the comment yourself and all that, but the person more or less said, "Don't you have any comic knowledge of your own, don't you have any lore and understanding of your own? You're using wikis and all this, and they're biased in an opinion, and plus your image isn't even right." And I'm like, well, first off, the image I found is what happens when you look up Ruin King Thor. And yeah, their description is what happened to Ruin King Thor, if I'm not mistaken. Second, it's called you doing research. Now, my research isn't perfect. I have screwed up research before, and that's just because I'm human. And there's only so much I can do. But so yeah, I'm going to use whatever source I can find. Wikis aren't inherently bad or good. They're not inherently biased or unbiased. They are a composite of information. So there's that. But and that leads me to the third one. It's like, and I'm gonna say it was an idiot statement to say. It's like, don't I have my own comic lore, just lore of these characters, knowledge of these characters? Yeah, but no one is a walking encyclopedia on anything. That's why it's called doing research. Like I look, whether you agreed with the opinion or not, it's fine. But like that was just a really dumb comment in my opinion. I just felt I should share that because I'm like, look, if you're gonna criticize me, fine, but actually sound like you have a point when you're criticizing someone. That's again, it's not the first time it's happened. I've had people say haven't done good research before, and that's fine. That's fair. But yeah, don't look like a dumbass when you try to look at a dumbass if you're going to criticize someone because it's just going to get thrown back in your face. Anyway, though, Pinhead is the grand priest of the Cenobites. They're basically not the ruler, but he's the guy who runs them. Now you can't. There have been times where other Cenobites have tried to challenge him and have temporarily succeeded, but overall he's the guy in charge. As such, he is very powerful. He's more or less immune to pain. I'm sure there are certainly ways you could actually succeed in hurting him, but more than anything, he is more or less immune to pain. He gets enjoyment of it because for them, pain and pleasure are the same thing. Being a supernatural entity, a demon-esque type creature, a Cenobite is more or less a demon. Has a demonic nature to him. He's capable of summoning chains from anywhere to skewer and gouge individuals. He even causes pyrokinesis. He does have some level of pyrokinesis too. I should say they, because the most recent version was a more female version of the character, even though I think the performer was actually non-binary. Regardless, so Pinhead is capable of pyrokinesis, capable of saying individuals by blowing him up. He can basically survive in our atmospheres without any issue. The chains are supernaturally based; they can just keep summoning more. He is extremely sadistic, obviously, and is highly intelligent. He's also, though, not without some level of honor. For example, when a mentally challenged individual was going to be tortured, and he basically just stopped and said, "No, no, no, that hers is not. Her suffering is not what I can't remember what was that. The suffering's not for her. She is not a part of this. Like and he has to keep them in line. Even he says like I can't keep the female one in line really, but even he's like no, no, no. It's like no, we have a mission. Leave her alone. And so he does do what he does with a purpose in mind. And obviously, in the most recent movie, it was like, choose. It's like, no, I choose. I'm going to live with it. You've chosen a lament configuration. It's like, all right, you're going to just basically live with it. That's going to be torture, but you're going to choose to do that. Okay. Pumpkinhead is a demon. Now, I can't remember. There are sins. I think, if I describe, there are 7 deadly sins, and there are demons for each sin. Now, I can't remember which one Pumpkinhead is supposed to fall under the guise of. I think. Now, don't completely quote me on this, but I think Pumpkinhead is supposed to fall on the guise of Wrath, maybe? But either way, Pumpkinhead is essentially a demon. Now, there's several, I can't remember the exact process to summon this, but essentially, you have to bury, it has to do with like whatever the victim is you're trying to avenge, you have to bring them to the graveyard. Not bring. Is it bring them to the graveyard? I want to say bring them to the graveyard. Yeah. I could be wrong. And basically bring this little shriveled up thing, and it brings out Pumpkinhead, and it's connected to the user. So whenever it's attacks someone, the user is connected. They're seeing it through their eyes, and Pumpkinhead is just basically a walking, death machine. It is a demon that just kills people, and that's what it does best. It doesn't really have any powers per se. I mean, at least nothing out of the ordinary of, say, your normal kind of horror movie slasher. He's extremely strong. He's also surprisingly quick, although it does kind of take him a while to, it feels like his walking is slow, but he is actually surprisingly quick. We're actually looking up right now what Pumpkinhead's actual abilities are. So let's see. I'm going to a wiki. Screw you. Supernatural strength. Yeah, apparently he can lift over 7 tons. Like that's so because there are Pumpkinhead comics. That's the thing. These are things we can actually go to for source material. He's also nigh invulnerable and has low level healing factor. His body's healing impervious against anything as it cannot be killed or harmed by conventional means or weaponry. Even if injured, like a gunshot, it will basically instantly regenerate. The only way to stop it is to kill him who summoned it, or kill them who summoned it. Also, it will track you no matter what. It's kind of like that creature from It Follows. It is actually intelligent, despite the fact it's not capable of speaking. And apparently, Pumpkinhead's mere presence seems to be able to bring storms around. Whether it's intentional or a side effect, who knows? So, that being said, it also has claws, a tail, and it can use the environment to its advantage. Now, that being said, Pumpkinhead is not infallible. Again, if you kill the actual conjurer of the Pumpkinhead, it will basically die. That's how you more or less kill it. And apparently there have been what, 4 movies? Wow, I didn't realize there was. I knew there was 2. I didn't realize there was 4. Okay. Anywho, so in a fight with these guys, this is similar to like the Creeper scenario, where it's like, okay, Pinhead is running around. Okay, I'm going to release Pumpkinhead now. Real long day. And so maybe we can release Pumpkinhead to try to stop him. Instead of us running, and eventually they come at the blows. Like, and Pinhead would probably look at Pumpkinhead as kind of like a lesser demonic being. Like, interesting. You serve the humans. I too serve the humans. I let them know pure pleasure. You are nothing more than a dog. And so, the demon tries to attack him. He goes back, he fires back at the, Pumpkinhead with the chains kind of binding him. But Pumpkinhead's clearly got the physical strength advantage over Pinhead. So he'd break the chains, and Pinhead would basically try to steer clear from Pumpkinhead. It'd be a game of keep away, really. Now, the question would come down to, is because he is also a supernatural demonic entity, does that mean that he is exempt from the whole Pumpkinhead can't be killed thing? I would say this, he probably is actually capable of injuring him because he is also a demonic entity of some kind. But I would imagine, unless you can sever the connection between Pumpkinhead and the summoner, that you can't kill Pumpkinhead naturally. Unless it's like something like complete atomization or something like that. Unless you're saying like I don't know, I'll throw a random character out here, a Lord Beerus who can literally annihilate a planet like that with a tap of his finger. Then you're not going to be able to literally just annihilate this thing. And Pinhead, for all his power, probably doesn't have the straight up power to annihilate it. He can probably injure it and actually cause it pain, but because it has a regenerative healing factor to it, and a pretty high one at that, it's really just a battle of attrition at this point. Unless Pinhead is able to figure out the connection between the summoner and the summoned, Pinhead eventually is going to be grabbed by it and start kind of being torn apart. Now, here's the problem here, though. Pinhead also can recover from, serious wounds, and he gets off on pain. But even he probably has limitations. Like being torn in half is probably something he doesn't want to have happen to him. He would like to keep his whole body if he could. So, and being a demonic entity in its own right, Pumpkinhead, means that his pain, the pain he inflicts on Pinhead, might be more effective than, say, what other people inflict on him. So it's really about who's able to kind of take advantage of a weakness first. But because they're both demonic entities and both intelligent, but I would definitely say Pinhead's probably the smarter one. He probably could figure out the link between the summoner and the Pumpkinhead. So if he's able to find that out, then he can very much just kind of disappear, because he can disappear on a whim if he wants to, and eventually just find the summoner and just tear their soul apart and kill Pumpkinhead. So while I think it would be a drawn-out fight, and neither getting a real clear-cut advantage over the other, I think Pinhead, being probably a smarter individual, and again, Pumpkinhead's actually not dumb, he just doesn't speak, but being the smarter individual and being probably a higher-level demonic entity than Pumpkinhead, he'd probably be able to figure out the weakness of Pumpkinhead and exploit it. So I would put my money on Pinhead in this fight, but ultimately, this is just my opinion. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you think. I'll see you next time.